Okay, let's unpack this. We got some great material from you, the listener, about growing plumerias,
That's right.
especially focusing on getting those cuttings going, which, if you're new to this, can sometimes feel a bit tricky.
It definitely can be.
You sent notes on a technique called plunging. So today, that's our mission. Dig into these sources, figure out why this plunging thing works, and what the key benefits are supposed to be.
Exactly. It really comes down to understanding how those plumeria roots behave, particularly when they're just starting out, and how we can sort of work with the plant.
Okay, so let's start there. According to the notes you shared, what's the main problem plunging is trying to solve? Like what happens inside that pot when the roots start growing downwards?
Well, the sources describe something pretty interesting. It connects back to how the cutting itself works. You know how you have to let a plumeria cutting dry out and form a callus before planting?
Right, yeah, seal the end.
So the idea in these notes is that the roots have a similar kind of reaction, but to air. When a root grows down and hits the drain hole at the bottom of the pot,
It finds open air.
uh-huh, and that air exposure, according to this material, triggers something like a callousing agent from the root tip itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the result mentioned is that it effectively stops root growth. And when the roots stop exploring, the whole tree slows growth.
Okay, so hitting air is like putting the brakes on the roots. How does plunging get around that?
It's elegantly simple, really. Plunging just means you take your potted plumeria
Yeah.
and you sink the whole pot into the ground. Dig a hole, pop it in.
Okay, so the pot sits in the soil.
Exactly. Now think about those roots reaching the drain holes
Mm.
instead of hitting air.
They go straight into the surrounding soil.
Precisely. The notes say they can then continue growing as if it was in the ground. No air exposure at the tip, no callousing trigger, no halt in growth.
That makes sense. It sort of tricks the plant, lets it think it's got unlimited space, even while it's technically still in the pot.
Right.
And the sources you sent highlight some real advantages to doing this, especially maybe for beginners, like keeping it in that small pot at first.
Absolutely. That's a key point. You get the benefit of that small pot environment early on. Better control over the heat, the moisture, right around those very new, delicate roots.
Okay, good control initially, but then you get better growth speed too. The notes mention it grows faster.
Yeah, that seems to be the direct payoff for avoiding that root stoppage. Because the roots don't get capped by air, they just keep extending out into the ground soil. The plant essentially puts on growth more quickly than one stuck in the pot. It thinks it's planted directly.
And it's not just about space, is it? Does it actually pull things from the ground soil?
That's another benefit pointed out in the material, yeah. By sending roots out into that surrounding earth, the plant can uptake more water and nutrients from surrounding areas.
So it gets the best of both worlds, the controlled start and access to ground resources.
Kind of, yeah. It taps into a much larger resource pool than just the potting mix.
But crucially, and this seems really practical from the notes, it's still easy to move.
That's a huge plus mentioned. Because the main root ball is still in the pot, even with roots going out, you can apparently easily remove it from the ground if need be.
Ah,
So, yeah, need to bring it in for winter? Or just move it. You still can.
okay, let's sum this up then, especially if you're thinking of trying this with your plumerias. Plunging means putting the pot in the ground.
Uh-huh.
This lets the roots grow out the bottom, avoiding that air contact that the sources say causes callousing and stops growth.
Right,
The payoff is potentially faster growth, access to more water and nutrients from the ground soil,
right.
but you still keep the plant portable because it's fundamentally in that pot.
It really highlights, based on these sources, just how sensitive roots are, doesn't it? That simple boundary between soil and air makes such a difference. It kind of makes you wonder, what else are plants sensing and reacting to down there?
Definitely food for thought. So if you're nurturing some plumeria cuttings, maybe give plunging a shot.